And good morning. It is time for the Mike Hewitt Show, brought to you by RenegadeRiver.com. And your host, Mike Hewitt. Good morning, Mike.
Hey, good morning, Brian. Thank you very much. Folks, in the studio with us this morning is Ludwig von Wiedendorski, who I often refer to as Matt Wiedenhoff, and also Pax. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hello.
Listen, last night I attended the State of the State address by Governor Snyder. And that probably is a large part and parcel, not necessarily his speech itself, but the primary topic, which is Flint water, that will occupy my passion this morning on the air. Listen, before I get there, I posted on Facebook here the other day as an announcement for this show, Governor Snyder's State of the State water edge caused the Titanic disaster. Do you know what caused the Titanic disaster?
From my understanding is the city of Flint changed from Detroit water to Flint water.
Titanic. Pay attention. The Titanic, it sank. What caused the sinking of the Titanic?
Oh, the Titanic?
Yeah.
Iceberg.
No.
Well, misuse of the ship.
No, it's none of that. Every problem, and I've said this on the air before, and a lot in my personal world, by the way, almost every problem that I've ever encountered at the bottom, be it politics or business, was a lack of communication. Mm. And what caused the iceberg and the ship and all of those things to come into contact, what caused all the lives to die, the whole thing was a series of miscommunications or flatly lack of communications. The guy up in the bird's nest didn't communicate in a timely manner. The whole thing, every single, even when they sent off the flares, the ship that could see them thought they were celebrating. Way back, honk the horn, keep on going, okay? And it's like the airplane story. An airplane rarely falls out of the sky for one reason. It just doesn't happen. Usually there's a compilation of reasons, assuming they didn't get shot down by a missile. There's a compilation of reasons. And I watched, what got me on this spiel is watching the lead up to the State of the State with the media sources and the uber left, not the average Democrat walking down the street. You folks hear me say that a lot. I'm not targeting you. I'm saying anybody that gets caught up in this and says, go take Governor Snyder out in the parking lot and hang him because of the water crisis in Flint is being stupid. I don't know another word for it. You're not misinformed. You're not wrong. You're being stupid. There's no other word for it. Now, I'm not a big Snyder supporter, but listen, Snyder in this train of events did exactly what he should have done. So I sit and say, well, where did the cart lead the horse? How'd this happen? How did we get here in this mess? How is it that we've got Americans, I don't care whether they're Flint or Vassar, we're going to talk about Vassar in a minute, okay? I don't care where they're at, if they're in the borders of the United States, how is it we've still got people that are being poisoned by lead? That's not Governor Snyder, folks. Stop it. It's silly to say that. No, it's silly. It's stupid to say that.
I agree with that.
He just isn't. It's not him.
No.
And I'm listening. He says, I'm going to release my emails. I'm going to, all of the things he did are going, yeah, but. Well, it isn't him. He didn't do it. And by the way, if you're in any kind of metropolitan community, anywhere in the United States of America, you're at risk. Did you know that? You're at risk. I have a very, very dear lifelong friend of mine. In fact, we've talked about him on the air before. His first name is Miles. The book that I wrote, and in fact the sequel, he still stars in it. I don't know if he knows that unless he's listening today. But I crafted the main character around that person. Of course, I gave him some extra attributes I don't know that he deserved. But growing up, we always called him Spock because he had that kind of personality. Very analytical, very, very intelligent. Years ago, I owned a property in the city of Vassar. I don't know if everyone knows where Vassar's at, but it's not in a black community. I tell you that because everyone's yelling racism right now. Old white people are killing black people in Flint. That's the mantra I heard last night outside on the steps. That's stupid, just so you know it. That's not what happened. So up in Vassar, in the 90s is when I owned this house, and we started having really poor water pressure. We were on city water, by the way. That's an important part of the story. So we're on city water. What's wrong with we couldn't figure it out. Finally, I'm not a plumber, by the way. All of the plumbing in this old house I have, beautiful old house, I liked it a lot, was all cast iron. Okay? So I get an old saw out, I cut into it. Listen, you couldn't fit your finger into the hole that was going through. So Miles, my friend, and I'm looking at him going, analysis, Mr. Spock. It was absolutely poison. Now, it's not poisoning anybody because they haven't switched the water source, causing any kind of chemical reaction. That's not happened. But listen, let me tell you how old our water infrastructure is. In Vassar, at least in the late 90s, and by the way, folks, this is probably true in a city near you. In Vassar, the connectors where the plumbing came together at street corners flowed through wooden barrels. It flowed through wooden barrels. Snyder didn't do that. I wanted to get out on the steps last night and say, Bush did it! Bush did it! It gets so stupid, folks. If we're not going to solve these problems, unless we get beyond ourselves and say, what are the facts so that we can correct them and not let them happen again. Jesse Jackson is on the floor of the Michigan State House last night. I offered a quip on Facebook. I didn't know he was a water expert. When did he become a public water works expert? I didn't know that. Was he here to solve the problem? I'm sure he was here to solve the problem. He's here to save lives. I know it. Unless, of course, there was some money to be had. Follow the agenda, follow the money, and if you want to save tomorrow's generation, stop getting hung up in all this nonsense and look to fixing the problem. I don't know how else to say it to you. I really don't. You're driving down the road and you've dialed into whatever talking person, me or the other side or somewhere in between, that tells you what you want to hear. Stop it. Get the facts. Is your water safe? I don't know if you know if your water's safe or not. I got to tell you, I don't know if my water is safe. I don't have a clue. I don't. But I know that the greatest generation, we hear a lot about that. We've talked about the greatest generation on this show. They fought and they won and they beat the Nazis in World War II. Their grandparents created our waterworks system. Think about that for a minute. Their grandparents, the greatest generation's grandparents, and in some cases great-grandparents, literally, folks, they built our infrastructure for our waterways.
Wouldn't that be like around the Civil War type age?
We're talking right before, in the 1890s. Wow. We're talking in the 1890s. Greatest generation were in their teens and young 20s in 1943.
Yeah.
So you could, the average generation, what is it, 25 years?
Yep.
Okay. Is that what they define it as?
Yeah.
So let's flip backwards. We're in the 1890s. That's who built our waterways. Who do you think used a wooden barrel as a transfer for water in a public works system? Wasn't us. Snyder did it. Snyder did it. It's stupid. Stop it, folks. I don't know how else to say it to you, but we've got to actually get beyond ourselves and the politics of it and start looking at some facts. I got to passionately believe that.
What good does the politics part play into this when there's still people that don't have water?
It's an election year.
Passed it. It is
help these people. It's an election year.
Oh, yeah.
This is campaign contributions. There's going to be people all over running for State House in Michigan, and there's going to be a lot of people that are going to use this. You send me $100, and I'll protect you from Snyder that poisoned those people. Snyder didn't do it. The grandparents of the greatest generation set this path on. Snyder didn't put asbestos in houses. Snyder didn't do any of those things. Instead, he's had to, I got to tell you, again, I'm not a big Snyder fan. I will tell you this, though, when I get beyond my own politics and just write down what the man has done, we disagree on 3 or 4 really big items. Mm-hmm. Stepping away from that, he's done a really good job as an administrator. That's what a governor does. Now, I don't know anybody. I've never met anybody. You, Jim Riley, both of you sit in here. Brian Thomas, it keeps us on path and out of the gutter, by the way. Sometimes you don't stop us in time. So, listen, I think you guys are wonderful people. Miles Carlson, General Miles Carlson. He's a wonderful person. I don't always agree with him. I've never met any person I've agreed with entirely. I say that because, folks, I'm asking you, I'm begging you, slow to navigation speed. Take a very, very long look at what's really going on in your world. And yes, that includes your water supply. We spent the last year and a half, 2 years, debating about the roads. Okay, now listen, everyone knows Mikey is not a big government guy. I'm as Jeffersonian as they get. Okay, I believe local government. On the other hand, we can't not pause right there and say, what did you just say? Local government? Who do you think made these decisions? Local government.
That's what I was going to say.
And local government right now is shirking their responsibility to their voters. They're not the ones that did what Governor Snyder did last night when he stood there in front of a bunch of people that they're all, I mean, all of the, he knows half the room is against him. Those folks aren't doing it. Rather than saying it was a 7-1 vote in the city of Flint to switch our water sources, oh, wait, we did it? It was us? Rather than Detroit saying, we had a contract with you and we exercise our option to discontinue it very early, causing you to make a decision that you probably wouldn't have normally made. Rather than them saying that, guess what they're saying? Snyder did it. Snyder didn't make those decisions, folks. That wasn't Snyder. We got to stop lying to ourselves. Sometimes politics doesn't work when facts deny what we want to believe. And in this circumstance, facts are denying what some folks want to believe. Me, I don't care one way or another. I really don't have a dog in this hunt, other than you've got your young man sitting there, your boy Pax. I've got 9 grandkids, and I know that there's no difference between the city of water, the actual public waterworks, in terms of its age and condition, than there is in almost every city in the state of Michigan, certainly, and probably in the entire Rust Belt. That's just a fact. It's not like somebody can say, Mike, you're wrong, because I'm not wrong. And if I am, by the way, dial up and tell me I'm wrong, because I'm not. It's just a fact. I want to be wrong. Does that count?
No.
It don't count.
No.
It's Bush's fault.
Sure, it could go further back than that.
It could be. It could be Andrew Jackson's fault, because I'm not a big Andrew Jackson fan, okay? I think he done it. I'm just telling you, I think he done it.
I think he was there when they did it.
There's a number of things that folks can find on the internet. If you Google The Real Tragedy in Flint, it's written by a fellow named Greg Branch, and out of all of the, I've got a stack here that would shock you. In fact, you walked in and took a double take. I got piles of paper everywhere that try to cover this, including what we'll talk about in the next segment, which is the timeline of what happened when and how Governor Snyder responded to it, what municipalities did. These things are important. Why are they important? So they don't happen again. That's why. I mean, let's take our party hat off for a minute and get down to some brass tacks. So Google The Real Tragedy in Flint. This article and this piece that this person wrote is probably the best of these things in describing from an unbiased. I'm the second district chair. Everyone said, Mikey, you have an agenda. Yeah, I do. I want to save my grandbabies. Okay, and I don't want those folks in Flint that were buying water from the municipality. By the way, I used to live in Flint. I spent a number of years working and living in and around that community. These things aren't foreign to me. We're talking about where I came from. Okay, so I mean, I drank that water. That's another way of saying it. I drank the water. Don't drink the water. I drank the water. I posted the other day that I was going to be talking about this topic. Actually, I didn't. Let me back up. I posted that I was going to be talking about state of the state, and everyone immediately said, "Don't drink the water," and making fun of Snyder. Well, we need to have a come to the truth moment with ourselves, and maybe it starts in the mirror, folks. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to run through the timeline. It'll be educational. We'll be right back.
And now we return to the Mike Hewitt Show, brought to you by RenegadeRiver.com.
So I've got this big list. It's a 2-page list, and it's the timeline of events. And I'm looking for when Governor Snyder became engaged in the event. 2006. Was Snyder in office in 2006? No.
No.
He's 6 years into it. Last night was his 6th State of the Union.
Yeah, he was 10.
So he came in 2010.
Yeah.
So he did do it in 2006.
He did.
This proves it.
This is how he got it in 2000.
Speaking of that, off the air, and I love that. I loved your point off the air so much. I gotta pause for a minute. Okay. Snyder says last night, and I don't know why I didn't think of this. It was kind of funny and brilliant on your part, and I take that back.
Ooh, thanks.
So Snyder says last night that tomorrow morning, so right now, he's going to release all of the emails from his office so that the media can scrub them up and take a peek and find out what he said, when he said it, what was going on with his administration as it relates to something he had nothing to do with. I don't think he said that. I added that last part on. I'm sorry. But then you pointed out, what about Hillary's emails? So speaking of scrubbing, she's ordered to turn them over, and they're like slow drip. Oh, we can't find them. They're hidden in the server behind the toilet in a bathroom in Colorado. We'll get them. What? No. Then she got out her squeegee and wiped them clean with her squeegee. And you go, stop it. It gets, what is that word? It gets stupid. It does. So in 2006, studies regarding Genesee County, that's Flint County, study for long-term water needs, including that Flint River water, can safely be treated. I can't even say that without laughing. If anyone has ever been to downtown Flint, if Miles, if you're listening, you're laughing. The idea that anybody with any kind of intelligence whatsoever thinks that Flint City River, the Flint River, could be drank from is delusional. That's insane. I remember back when Michael Moore was busy trying to destroy Flint. That's when I was working there. It was in the 80s. General Motors was on its butt. Michael Moore was running around doing Roger and Me, the movie. So I had to point to that time, not to point to Michael Moore, the astute fellow that he is and all, but during that period of time, it seemed like every time we turned around, they were finding another dead body in the Flint River. So when I think about, and by the way, Flint has been industrial for a little while, and of course the Flint River runs through that.
They would never have put anything in that river, though, right?
Oh no! And it's probably run clean because I know they killed the industry.
Yeah.
That's why it went. I mean, we're down to 10% of the population that Flint was at its peak, literally. Folks like Michael Moore helped so much. So anyhow, in 2006, they decide that the Flint River could be drank from. It can be treated to use as a water source, but that perhaps it wasn't enough. So that was the first deal. 2013, we speed ahead, and they're still wanting to do something different. Because keeping in mind they've had a several decade-long contract with Detroit buying wholesale water, as many municipalities in southeastern and up into the Thumb area get their water from either Saginaw or Detroit. And they go through big treatment plants, and it's been very, very good. But Detroit charges a lot. Something about prevailing wage. I don't know what they're talking about, but it costs them a lot of dough to purify the water. I hope they're not drawing it from the River Rouge. Oh my God, I never thought of that. That's worse than the Flint River.
Oh man.
Oh, anyhow, so I think it was like 5 decades that they've been buying water from Detroit. A long time at any rate. And so Flint City Council votes 7-1 to leave the Detroit water system and go through, and I can't pronounce the word, but go to a different water source. That was in March of 2013. So Snyder is governor, but this was done at a city level. Mm-hmm. That was in March. In April, there was an emergency manager involved, and he agrees. This must be the Snyder contact. Mm-hmm. Here's what makes it Governor Snyder's fault. City Council votes 7-1, but the emergency manager says, yeah, okay, fine. That is it. That's what does it.
That's where they're tying him in.
Now, keep it in mind that everyone before was screaming that Flint had an emergency manager in the first place because it took away local control from decision making. So in this, you go, folks, come on, you can't have it both ways. I have never been an advocate for the emergency management system. We've talked about it on the show before, but he didn't override what the city wanted to do. and now it's his fault? It's Snyder's fault? Because the folks that didn't want Snyder's office in control didn't change the direction, and so that makes it their fault. Are you following me, folks? This is about as convoluted, where's that word at, and stupid as you can get. It just is. It's dumb.
They almost are mad because they didn't protect. He didn't protect them from being stupid.
It's the most self-serving double sow cow triple toe loop that I've ever seen to come up with blaming it on somebody else. So the Detroit Water Works provides notice to terminate effective in 1 year. The city of Flint, when they're making this decision, perceive that they've got a fairly long contract remaining with Detroit in which they can do some analysis and get this thing going. Okay, keeping in mind the reason that they want to control their own water is because they think Detroit is gouging. Did I say that word, gouging, again? They think they're being gouged for pricing, and really not. That's just prevailing wage. That's what everybody wants.
Yeah.
So, what do you mean it makes the stuff high? That's so silly. So that's what happened. So the very next day, after the emergency manager says, yes, you folks can, your 7-1 vote, go ahead and rock and roll with that. Then the very, very next day, Detroit says, by the way, you're all done. You don't have 3 more years. You've got 1 more year. So get your poop together, literally. And so, you read this, in June, City of Flint decides to use the Flint River as a water source. That you go, seriously? They discovered in 2006 that it was drinkable. It isn't. But they decided it's drinkable. It wasn't going to provide enough water. So now they look at that report and say, it's drinkable, we'll go ahead and use it. Well, it's not drinkable to start with, but aside from that, they found up front it wouldn't provide enough water. So what we're doing here is we're saying, let's not really fix the problem. We don't have an answer. This is governor's fault. This is Bush's fault. This is your fault, Ludwig von Wiedendorsky.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
You should be. I'm going to make sure they know you apologized.
I did. I'll take your I'm sorry. That's what you do. Is you take responsibility.
It's about time. So July of 2014, Flint begins its first 6-month monitoring period for lead and copper. I think, wait a minute. How can this possibly be? They decided in 2006 that the water was good. They decided in 2006. The Flint city government, decided in 2006 that the water was good. So in June of 2013, they decided to go ahead and tap into it. In the very next month, they start for lead and copper testing. What would cause them to do that?
How do you decide it's good but have not done that earlier?
Well, it's more interesting to me. It tells me that they knew that they had a problem.
Yeah.
They've tied into a water source, and within 30 days, there's testing for lead and copper. And this is, by the way, this is July of 2014 when they begin their testing. They knew that they've tied into a system that's questionable. They should have called me. There's dead bodies in that water, and it's been flowing through industrial for the last 100 years. Well, let's pause and see if there's another answer. Let's pay the exorbitant rate to Detroit, apologize to them, and see if we can kick the stone a little bit further down the road so that we can come up with a solution that's safe. Because it's insulting to me. It's insulting to me, and it should be to you folks, when you look at this and say they switched to it and immediately started doing testing. Immediately. Come on. I'm just flabbergasted. The way the actual math was, June of 13, they decided to use the Flint. In April of 2014, so it's really not quite a year later, they've tied in to the Flint River. They immediately, it's a little over 30 days later, they start testing for lead. That's 6 months later. So now we're into the January of 2015. Flint conducts second 6-month monitoring period for lead and copper. What? They're still testing. Golly, do you think it's poisoned? Yes, it's poisoned. You knew that when you started, or you wouldn't have started testing right away. This isn't rocket scientists. This is just this. You read it. And you're going, what are those people outside the state house last night? Do they know what they're gathering for? Do they know what they're grieving?
No.
They should be outside the city hall going, what did you folks do to us?
Yeah. No.
It's just, folks, this stuff is very, very accessible. I am obviously, when I can have this in my hand in a moment, you can Google it, you can find it, the answers are there. So before you grab your picket sign and yell it's George Bush's or Andrew Jackson's fault.
I think it's really his.
I'm still stuck. I think it's you. I think Ludwig von Wielendorsky did this.
I apologize. I really do.
So in January, that was January 1st, by the way, of 2015, Flint decides they better go ahead and do their second 6-month monitoring. Monitoring? They're going to monitor it? Go ahead and drink it. I know it's brown, but it's okay.
During all this, did Flint let their own citizenship know that this was taking place?
I don't know that. It's a very interesting question. I've not followed the Flint Journal in a long time.
Okay.
I don't know the answer to that, but I have to tell you, the folks that are involved in the community, have you ever heard me mention get involved?
Yes, all the time.
Yeah, listen, if the folks that were involved in the community would have been sitting at those city council meetings going, what? You want us to drink from where? Seriously? The folks that were involved should have been on a rooftop screaming. The media that's making this into a political football should have been saying, stop! This ain't rocket science, folks. It isn't. The folks that were involved should have been screaming from the rooftops, especially the media, who I believe have a constitutional responsibility to protect its citizenry. This is not happenstance. It ain't election year politics. People are at risk. You're going to have little boys and girls in the city of Flint that are going to be disabled for the rest of their life. You understand what I'm saying to you, folks? To save a bill from Detroit Water Works, and we're going to picket Snyder, follow the timeline. This is not rocket science. It's certainly not common sense, but it's not rocket science, okay? We don't have to find the culprit. What we need to do is find out how it happened, make it so that can't happen again, and get this problem solved. That's what we need to do. So, Detroit Water Works, they start their test on January 1st of 2015. They're going to run a 6-month monitoring for lead and copper. Good for them. January 12th, the Detroit Water Works offered to reconnect the Flint and waive the $4 million connect fee. When you hear $4 million connect fee, I don't know what's involved. I don't know if it's just a valve, you turn a valve on, or is it a switch? I don't listen, I'm not being facetious. I don't know. But $4 million sounds kind of high. And listen, when they charge $4 million, you know who pays it? Taxpayers. Taxpayers pay that fee. So we ought to know. We should find out. Did they just turn a valve? Did they hit a switch? Do they have to go dig a bunch of holes? $4 million to dig a pretty doggone big hole. Now, I don't know what's involved in it, but I find $4 million as a reconnect fee insulting. And Detroit must have felt the same way because they waived it. I say, good for them. That was on January 12th. January 29th, the emergency manager declines, and maybe here's a problem. He declines to reconnect to the Detroit water system. Finally, Governor Snyder awards a $2 million to find the leaks and replace Waterworks incinerator in February 3 of 2015. And by the way, one of the things, and I can't quote the timeline as Governor Snyder did it last night, but one of the things he told us was that you had both the federal, what's the DEQ?
Yeah.
And then I always get them confused.
DEQ is state.
State. And then and what's the one from the feds?
EPA, right?
Both of these two departments were in it, and they're going, oh, no, the water's good. And there's some folks in fact, one of them was there. There were 2 doctors from out of the area that were somehow involved in the testing, and they're like waving up and down and jumping like I'm saying we all should have been. No, it's not. Don't drink it. Stop. Okay. And that one of the 2 of them were in the audience during the State of the State last night, and I applaud them because they took some flack, I believe, for saying, no, stop it, don't do that. This is a problem. And they were saying that not to Snyder, as I understand it, but rather to the boots on the ground, the folks that were running the municipalities. These are all important things.
I was going to ask you, where's the EPA in all this? I mean,
they're there, and they're there. EPA and DEQ discuss high levels of lead in water. That's February 26th to 15. EPA and DEQ. I'm reading on. So, February 27th, DEQ states in an email to the EPA that Flint water treatment plant has an optimized corrosion control problem after EPA inquires about the treatment. March 12th. So we went from late February to March 12th. Flint water consultant, can't say the word, can't pronounce the person's name, issues report that water meets state and federal standards, does not report specificity on lead.
Can I ask you real quick?
Yeah.
Did you say February 3rd of last year, 2015, Snyder got involved already?
Snyder's only involvement that I found his name at comes from two places. The first place is that it's his emergency manager that's allowing the city to do what the city wanted to do.
Yep.
So that's the first contact with Snyder's office.
You said $2 million or something?
and then on February 3rd of 2015, Snyder awards $2 million to Flint to seek leaks and to replace a wastewater incinerator.
So of 15, because if you watch the news, they'd have you think he didn't know about this till February 3rd of 2016.
But listen, in defense of Snyder, he still didn't.
No, that's what I'm saying is that he was actually proactive from where you would think he had nothing to do with it.
He was, but keeping in mind at this point in time, when he's saying yes, we need to find $2 million to find the leaks and to replace the wastewater incinerator. Yeah. At that point in time, he's not being told that there's a problem.
No,
he's still operating under the premise that was done from the 2006 study, and the fact that the city of Flint's council are looking at DEQ. Now, DEQ's in his environment, by the way. Mm-hmm. There's a director that's part of his cabinet. That person is resigned, but that person is going, yeah, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine, matching up with what the city's findings are.
You can only do...
Remember the Titanic story?
Yeah, with the information you're given is the only thing you can make decisions based on.
But folks, we've got to think about the Titanic story here. We really do. This stuff didn't happen with one person that didn't do his job or her job. Mm-hmm. This was a number of people that were stuck in an overwhelmingly large government where its left hand can't even talk. It don't even know where its right hand is. There's so many left hands and right hands that it's not possible for it to put its hands in its own pocket. That's the real problem here. We got uber government gone flipping wild. There's people everywhere. If you were to write a timeline that had all of the names involved with people nodding up and down that this is okie dokie, I would have to have stacks up. It would look, no, it wouldn't be as big as Obamacare. Never mind, I take that back. That wouldn't be true. But there was a lot of people involved, way more than Snyder. Oh, yeah. At this point, Snyder's still being a governor, and he's going, yeah, okay, everyone's telling me this is fine, but they've got an incinerator problem, and they got some leaks. Fix the leaks, fix the incinerator. Yep. By the way, folks, I don't know how this becomes, as a taxpayer in Western Michigan, I still can't get my head around, this is my politics. I have to pause for a minute. I don't know how taxes should come from my wallet. I don't know how the fruits of my labor should fix the leaks in Flint. I've never understood that. I'll never understand that. And by the way, I don't want those little boys and girls to be damaged for the rest of their life. So I'm willing to say I'm not going to get into the politics of us funding them, because I think some things are incumbent upon government to do when there's no other site. On the other hand, man, the city of Flint and the city of Detroit, they need to step up to the pump. They really do. This burden, I don't care who you want to blame it on, this burden goes back to some selfishness and some uber-sized governments that can't turn around, they're so big. That's really whose hat that we've got to knock off, in my mind. And as a taxpayer, I go, stop it. All of these stupid people are costing us money that we could have either kept in our pocket, or if we had to be taxed it, put it to far better use than spending many millions of dollars. I mean many, many millions of dollars to mop up a mess so that Flint could solve its water bill problem. I'm going, what? Tell me that's why we're doing this?
Yeah.
That's why there's a bunch of little boys and little girls with their futures at risk, because Flint didn't like the size of Detroit's water bill. That's really what we're talking about. And then nobody from that point on could communicate with each other because everyone had an agenda. Everyone was looking for an election year. Right now, the fact that we're even having this dialogue isn't about solving the problem. It's about an election year. And shame, 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 shame. I believe that passionately. All those little boys and girls, I pray, I know they don't like that. I don't care. I pray, dear God, that those little boys and girls are protected from this and that this doesn't impair them. Folks, we're going to go to a break. We're going to skip the Enigma report today because, frankly, there's just too much running through the pipes. We'll be right back.
And now we return to the Mike Hewitt Show, brought to you by RenegadeRiver.com, and we're into segment number 3.
You know, I stand corrected because to me this really is really an enigma. It is. And when I stand back during the break and I'm thinking about pushing off the enigma today, I'm thinking, you know, the whole show has really been an enigma to me because none of this stuff makes any sense. Drawing on the Flint River, thinking it's healthy, knowing up front that it cannot cover your water needs. I'm reading a story now. It's on the legalreader.com. EPA implicated in cover-up of Flint water crisis. Say it ain't so. Can the Obama administration's department really have been involved in a cover-up?
No.
Did you know, this is one of those, did you know that half, think about this word for a minute, there's a lot of people in Flint, half of the pipes that deliver water are lead.
Wow.
Think about that. I think that's just incredible.
Yeah. It's
But keep in mind who put them in there. The grandparents of the greatest generation.
Yeah.
Okay? Now listen, conservatives, me, fiscal conservatives, me, pause for a minute and say, yeah, we just went through the road debacle. Do we really want to talk about a water infrastructure debacle? Yeah, I think we do. I do. Because you know what? I don't know about you, but I don't want lead poisoning. I've been thinking about it during the break. Do I want lead poisoning? No! I don't want lead poisoning. Do I want my grandbabies to be poisoned with lead? No, I don't. Some folks, and I asked this question also, by the way, and I wish Miles was sitting here because he'll probably have an answer. But one of the pauses that I had is, how is it that changing the water source stirred up the poison? Because the lead's been there all along. Okay, and what I was told, and by the way, there was a number of chemicals involved, and I'm the last. In fact, I'll tell you who told me is Lieutenant Governor Brian Kelly, and I stood there yesterday before the State of the State, and I asked the question. I said, I'm getting asked a lot how it is that just changing the water source, and then he told me a very succinct 2-sentence answer, and I can't even begin to parrot it. I don't think I could have done it right there on the spot. But the bottom line is it's a chemical reaction, and I think, okay, well, I get that. You mean none of these geniuses between 2006 and into the early portions of 2015, none of those folks knew that this would be the result of that? Folks, you got to Google up this article that says the EPA was complicit in the Flint City cover-up. By the way, it doesn't say the Governor Snyder cover-up. It says it was implicated in the cover-up of Flint. Can that be right? Were those picketers, did they get their GPS screwed up? Should they have been in downtown Flint? Right on Saginaw Street in downtown Flint? Maybe that's where they should have been, because that's where the decisions were made. That's who made the decisions. That's who never asked the questions that I can't figure out right now. They had 9 years to cipher on this. That seems, Jethro Bodine. You got 9 years to figure out that half the city is plumbed with lead from more than 100 years ago. It's going to be okay. Obviously not.
I'm so complex. I don't understand this. This is like the biggest ball of webs and weaves All going back to a city council that didn't give proper information, the EPA being involved, and somehow we're wrapped back into it's Snyder's fault. And it's not.
Somewhere in the middle of 2015, citizens started complaining. In fact, I wish folks you could see this. And look at this. There's 2 glasses of water we're looking at. If you go to legalreader.com, the heading on this article of EPA implicated in cover-up of Flint water crisis starts out with a picture of 2 glasses of water. One I could probably read the newspaper through. It looks like a typical glass of water. The other one looks like watered-down Coke. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
What color would you decide that is?
Should I see it real quick?
Sure.
My 5-year-old's here.
Uh-huh.
Paxton, would you drink this one?
Not so much.
No, 5 years
You
old.
should have seen shaking his head. Yeah, no, not me, thanks. So
The first time I think you got that out of your faucet, you'd go, something's wrong.
listen, in the citizens of the good citizens of Flint, I might add, started saying something's wrong.
Do the city council members not live where that water's coming out? Because
And they were drinking bottled water.
you're like, oh, well, bottled water, go get some at Costco. This is a problem.
We've got some in the refrigerator over there. You want another? I mean, listen, folks, I'm telling you, a shame on city government.
And you know, most people don't realize, Mike, even that kind of water is being used to make pop and soda. Like, just because you didn't drink water, I drink pop at McDonald's. That water's being used.
I don't know if it's, by the way, there's an interesting thing I hadn't thought about that, but there is the bottling plant for Coke and Pepsi and a number of other, maybe they're not there anymore. Back in the 90s, in the early 80s, Al Bennett and Mel Farr, the superstar, went together on a bottling plant right in Flint. So I don't know that whether that's fed or not, but that's a very valid point. You can guarantee that products leaving the city of Flint contain this water because it's not possible for them not to. Whether it's bottled water for those, I don't know that. It's a very interesting thing that you point out there.
And I think about it because I drive through Flint to go to Detroit about every other weekend, and we've stopped in that area to eat lunch or dinner, and my kids, and I think, man, when you get a pop or out of a fountain, that's that water. It's not literally just drinking the water straight from the tap. It's everything that runs through the line. That's a scary thought.
See, whenever I go through, even if I go to southeastern Michigan, I go the long way because I want to get a Halo burger.
Yeah, I've been wanting to try that.
I'm telling you what, Halo burger is the single best. We used to call them Halo Biggies.
Really?
It's the single best hamburger that I've ever had. It probably locks my own plumbing right up. But man, is it good stuff.
I've been trying to stop there, and there's only one from northern Detroit area to Flint on 75, and I missed it the last time we were.
You can't miss it. That's bad.
I'll be getting there this weekend. I'm making if you said it's that good, I'm making a stop.
There's no reason to go east of Lansing unless it includes a Halo burger trip. There's just no value in the trip at all. I feel robbed if I come back and I didn't get a Halo burger. I'm telling you, I love them.
Oh, I'm gonna have to.
1923. They were founded in 1923 with a little store downtown Flint, right on Saginaw Street. Old-fashioned, still there, old-fashioned building. Used to be a big Verner's mural on the wall beside it. So they make Boston coolers and enough of that.
You told me you didn't eat breakfast, so.
Oh man, I'm starving. But no, all jokes aside, Halo Burger's a great place. Folks, we simply don't have enough time to go through the timelines all the way through from July forward. Suffice it to say, the EPA was extremely involved. I mean, when I say involved, more involved than Governor Snyder. Hard to imagine that the federal government was involved in something that didn't go right. That's almost mind-boggling. It's overwhelming to think about it, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's funny, on Sunday during the Democratic debate, I never heard the EPA blamed.
No, I know. I didn't hear them anywhere on the news all the way here this morning.
Oh.
I'm scanning everywhere and doing my final last-minute round for show prep. I don't hear anybody talking about the EPA. The EPA was in it up to their eyeballs, and I'm telling you, the glass of water is brown. It's brown.
If you literally took that picture and said which one's American and which one's Mexico,
Mexico's not that bad.
People would have picked the brown one thinking that's Mexico, and the clear was
to me, it looks like someone took their clean glass out of the cupboard and went outside and scooped it out of a mud puddle.
Yeah.
Listen, folks, I mean that literally. I'm not exaggerating. You can go to the website I directed. Was it legal? I can't remember it now. But go there, wherever it was, and take a look at the picture. It's you can Google it. It's crazy to me. Absolutely crazy. But at any rate, EPA's in it up to their eyeballs. They're helping to cover it up. That's June, July, and on through current. And yet they're picketing Snyder. Again, I've not exactly earned a reputation of being a great Snyder defender. But this is wrong. It just is wrong.
You know, it wasn't his fault, and I mean, we understand it. We agree with that. I mean, I had people on Facebook yesterday posted, get Snyder. Most of these people are East Siders that I know. But the fact that as a leader, he stepped up and said, you know what, I apologize. And he took responsibility and moved forward.
First off, I have to tell you, I'm glad you brought that up. It was one of the points I wanted to talk about. One of the things, I sat there last night while watching him. He's apologizing. He's accepting the blame. And in my mind, listen, I think he overdid it. And of course, the Uber lefters going, he didn't do nothing, you know. Da, 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 da. He accepted blame for things he didn't do. August 17th, this is what I was trying to read the timeline. I wanted to make sure we're down to a couple, 2.5 minutes or so. August 17th of 2015, based on July results showing lead levels at 11 ppb, with from the second 6-month testing period, which was January 1st through the end of June. DEQ instructs Flint to optimize corrosive control. You go, what? That was on August 17th. August 23rd, the folks I was trying to remember their name, Virginia Tech researcher Professor Mark Edwards raises concern about corrosion and lead, notifying DEQ that he will be studying Flint's water quality issues. And it goes on. September, early September, late September, they're still trying to analyze it. September 28th, DEQ and DHS directors provide briefing to Governor Snyder. We're into September. We're at the very end of September, September 28th, before they've actually told Governor Snyder what they believe the problem is. And by the way, these two folks from Virginia Tech are in defiance. They're disputing what the intelligent folks from the DEQ and even more importantly the EPA are saying. They say, no, this isn't a corrosion problem that's going to be okay. You can't filter it. This is dangerous stuff. Both of these two folks were sounding the alarm, but by now we're debating. The cows are out. Where do the cows go? I don't know. They're gone. We're not saying can we build a better wall to keep them in. The cows are gone. Folks have already been drinking this stuff for a couple years. Bush did it. Snyder did it. Andrew Jackson did it. Ludwig von Wiedenhofsky did it.
Sorry.
Folks, find us on Talk Mike Hewitt Twitter. That's on Twitter, Talk Mike Hewitt. And on Facebook at /The Mike Hewitt Show. And, of course, themikehewittShow.com.